Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Brewer's Minute. So ever since Kaladesh released, there's been a few cards that I've gotten a bunch of questions about saying, how can I make this work in Modern? And my answer has mostly been, well, I don't think that you can. So today we're going to talk about 4 Kaladesh cards that seem really powerful and can be very good in Standard, but just aren't quite there for Modern. But more importantly, we're going to talk about why these cards don't work in Modern. So a quick reminder before we break it all down, if you enjoy the Brewer's Minute and this episode about why not in Modern, it would be awesome if you could take a second, click that subscribe button down in the corner of your screen. It's a great way to support the channel and the site for free. So let's talk about some Kaladesh cards. First off, we have Aetherworks Marvel. The card has been very playable in Standard. It was one of the biggest decks, actually the biggest deck at Pro Tour Kaladesh. It's faded off a little bit recently. Basically, this is a way if you get 6 energy, you can tap it and play something from your top 6 cards. So in Standard, it's a way to get an Emrakul, get an Ulamog. In Modern, it would probably be the same thing. Get an Emrakul, the Eon Storm, a Grizzlebrand, some really big powerful creature on the cheap. So there's a couple of reasons, though, that this plan just isn't that practical for Modern. First off, you got to get a bunch of energy. It takes a lot of work to make Aetherflux Marvel good. That's one of the problems with the Standard decks is you got to play a tune with Aether and Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot and creatures like Aether Torch Renegade just to generate enough energy to activate it. And in Modern, you just have ways to do this that are much less demanding on your deck. Through the Breach lets you take a card from your hand, a creature, and just put it on the battlefield. So if you want an Emrakul, you get 1 additional mana, you just get that creature, it even has haste so it can attack and annihilate the opponent's board. Gifts Ungiven doesn't work with Emrakul, but if you want a Grizzlebrand or an Iona or something like that, 4 mana, tutors it from your library at instant speed, puts it in the graveyard with Unburial Rites, you untap, get it on the battlefield, and even Goryo's Vengeance allows you to do somewhat what Aetherworks Marvel would do, except you do it for 2 mana, sometimes on turn 1 with Simian Spirit Guide. So there's just better options for this effect, and this isn't even to mention that Aetherworks Marvel picks up on the sideboard hate of Stony Silence when none of these other cards have that problem. Up next, we have Electrostatic Pummel Er, a card that's been pummeling people in Standard, getting turn 4 kills fairly consistently. And this is another one. How can we make Electrostatic Pummel Er work in Modern? Well, you got the same issue as with Aetherworks Marvel, where you need to generate energy, but even just Electrostatic Pummel Er by itself seems pretty good. Turn 3, you play Pummel Er, get 3 energy. Turn 4, you can become immense, Finds of the Vastwood, double it once. You have this huge threat, kills the opponent in 1 shot. Seems pretty appealing. The problem is, in Modern, we have Infect Creatures, which essentially do the same thing as Electrostatic Pummel Er, except they cost 0 mana, or 1 mana, or 2 mana, like Inkmoth, Glistener Elf, and Blighted Agent. So if you're going to untap and throw a bunch of pump spells on something to kill your opponent, you can do that with Glistener Elf on turn 2 or turn 3, instead of on turn 4 or turn 5. So it's just a turn or 2 slower than the other options. Plus, Electrostatic Pummel Er is just as fragile. It also picks up on the artifact sideboard hate that we were talking about with Aetherworks Marvel. Next, we have one of my favorite Kaladesh cards, Panharmonicon, and this is the one I most want to have work in Modern. I don't know if it'll happen, but the ability to evoke a Muldrifter and draw 4 for only 3 mana, or a Shriekmaw, kill 2 creatures for only 2 mana, just seems so sweet. The problem is, Modern is a fast place. There's a lot of decks that kill you on, we would say, turn 3.5, which means sometimes on turn 3, sometimes on turn 4, which means it's really hard to tap out for a 4 mana card that doesn't do anything immediately, like Panharmonicon. You play your land, Panharmonicon, you're hoping to untap and do something with it, but by that time, you're likely dead to Blighted Agent, or a bunch of burn spells like Boros Charm, or Cranioplating. Last but not least, we have Metallurgic Summonings, sort of appealing in Modern because we have really good ramps. Search for Tomorrow's, Rampant Growth, Explore. Getting up to the 5 mana for Metallurgic Summonings should be easy. These cards can trigger Metallurgic Summonings after they're on the battlefield. Get a 3/3 with Search for Tomorrow, a 2/2 with Rampant Growth, draw a card, get an extra land, get a 2/2 with Explore. So that part of it seems good. We have much better ramp than we have in Standard. The problem is, if you're ramping up to 5 mana for Metallurgic Summonings, and then you're playing it, hoping to untap and play more spells to trigger it and win the game, you might as well just go one more mana and Primeval Titan, which you can tutor up with Summoner's Pact and kill the opponent immediately with Valakut or through the Breach in for 5 mana for the same cause as Metallurgic Summonings, or get up to 7 mana and just Scapeshift for the instant win with Valakut. So there's better things with more immediate impact on the game that you can do if your plan is to ramp into something that's 5, 6, 7 mana, then Metallurgic Summoning, stuff that you don't need to untap and do more things to make good. So the point of all this isn't to say you shouldn't try Metallurgic Summonings or Panharmonicon. I'm all for that. I think you should play what you want and it'll be fun. The point of this is just to illuminate how much harder it is for a card to break out in Modern than it is in Standard. In Standard, you got 2 years worth of cards at the max. In Modern, we got 15 years worth of cards, and with 15 years worth of cards, 2 things tend to happen. Either there's just a better option available, like we saw with Aetherworks Marvel, and Through the Breach, for example, or Gifts Ungiven, or Goryo's Vengeance. There's just better cards that do the same job as the Kaladesh card but better, or in those 15 years, something was printed that just invalidates the card, like Stony Silence fighting against Electrostatic Pummel Er, for example. So that's just stuff to keep in mind if you decide to try these cards. Play them for fun, play them for against the odds, play them casually, but don't expect to see them break out and be tier 1 decks in the format, because there's a few things that are holding these cards down. Anyway, that's been our Brewers Minute for this week. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon.